Alright, WBC qualifiers are still about 10 weeks away. Rosters are not available yet. No idea what each country will be bringing. So, this is of course the perfect time to start making predictions. How can we do that without knowing who the players are? Well, we have a pretty good idea what kind of team each country will be bringing. We can look at how these teams usually perform internationally, and especially how they've performed lately. Also, we've got the schedule. One group will start play on February 21st in Taipei. Day 1 will be South Africa versus Nicaragua and Spain versus Taiwan. The other group gets started on March 2nd. Day 1 will feature China versus Germany and Brazil versus Colombia. You look at the schedule day by day and can't help but start to visualize how it's all going to play out. So today I want to share how it's playing out in my own mind. Again, this is without any rosters to go by, sort of a preliminary prediction video. In February, when rosters are available, we'll do this all again, in more detail. Maybe I'll come to the same conclusions, or maybe not. Be sure to leave your own predictions in the comments. I could be totally wrong here. These groups look really competitive. It's disappointing to see the number reduced from 2 16 pools at the last WBC qualifiers to 2 14 pools at these WBC qualifiers. New Zealand, Argentina, Pakistan, and France don't get to participate this time. But it does make for smaller, more competitive groups with a simpler format. Still though, I think if they wanted smaller groups for the qualifiers, they should have held pre-qualifiers so the countries could earn their spots here, instead of simply just not inviting some countries. The format is simple. 4-team round robin, takes 3 days. The first place team qualifies, 4th place team is out. 2nd and 3rd place teams meet one more time. Winner is in, loser is out. Taiwan, Nicaragua, Colombia, and China are trying to re-qualify after finishing last in their pools at the 2023 WBC. Brazil and Spain are trying to qualify for the first time since 2013. South Africa trying to get in for the first time since 2009. Germany trying to get in for the first time ever. Let's start with Day 1 in Taipei on February 21st. The very first matchup will be South Africa versus Nicaragua. Day 1 is the best time for the underdog to pull off an upset. Sometimes it takes the stronger teams a day or two to really start clicking as a team. Think back to the last WBC when Australia beat Korea and Colombia beat Mexico, both on Day 1. Or think back to the last WBC qualifiers. Czech Republic lost their first game to Spain 21-7, then came back and won their next 3 to qualify, including a win over Spain. Nicaragua is the favorite here, 5 active players who have played in Major League Baseball. Carlos Rodriguez, Erasmo Ramirez, Jonathan Loaizaga all pitched in MLB in 2024. JC Ramirez pitched in Mexico last summer, Venezuela this winter. Cheslor Cuthbert a few years removed from his time as an MLB hitter, but still hitting the ball in the winter leagues. Besides those guys, there are still several more Nicaraguans in the minor leagues, independent leagues, and the Nicaraguan Winter League. They've got plenty to choose from. I don't know if he'll even be available to play in the qualifiers, but with South Africa, the first player I think of is Astros pitcher Taylor Scott, coming off an amazing year, 62 appearances, 2.23 ERA, and he was tried out as a starter. He is capable of throwing more than 1 or 2 innings. Some other good pitchers, Dylan Unsworth pitched in AAA and the Winter Leagues. Kieran Lovegrove pitched in the minors a few years ago, so they could use a combination of pitchers to try and shut down Nicaragua's offense. But who's going to hit for them? Gift Ngope was a major league hitter, but that was a long time ago. As far as I know, he hasn't played anywhere in the last few years. His brother Victor was a minor league hitter years ago. Last I knew, he was playing in South Africa. So I don't think South Africa has what it takes to upset Nicaragua, even if Nicaragua has trouble getting adjusted on Day 1. Another team could pull it off maybe, but not South Africa, which would appear to be the weakest in this group. Then we got Spain versus Taiwan, or Taiwanese Taipei, whatever they're called. Taiwan will be playing at home, and they just won gold at the Premier 12 last month. They are supposed to be releasing a preliminary roster soon, and they said it's going to look very different from the roster they brought to the Premier 12. Not completely different, I'm sure. Probably some of the top players will still be there. But whatever they bring to the qualifier, I'm sure it'll be enough to easily take care of Spain. Spain could use a few ex-major leaguers like pitcher Reiner Cruz or a hitter like Angel Beltre, Yoander Negrin pitching in Venezuela right now, but they are not going to beat Taiwan in Taiwan. Not even close. Day 2, 2/22, Spain versus Nicaragua. Spain played a late game the night before, now has to play an early game. Nicaragua, after maybe looking a little rusty on Friday, comes out swinging hard on Saturday. They'll put a lot of runs on the board, but so will Spain. Nicaragua won't be using their best pitchers yet. Something like 9-6 Nicaragua wins. The night game, Taiwan versus South Africa. South Africans won't have any more luck than Spain did. Another blowout in favor of Taiwan. Sunday, South Africa versus Spain. This would set up an elimination game here. Loser goes home, winner gets one more chance on Tuesday. I'd have to go with Spain here. They looked a lot better than South Africa at the last WBC qualifier, and have since won the European title. And Spain, with their Latin American connection, can always find players. I'm sure they'll be able to win this one. That would set up a Sunday night championship game between Taiwan and Nicaragua. You probably won't be surprised if I say Taiwan over Nicaragua here, but I'm going to go a little farther and say Taiwan wins in a blowout. The way they were able to take advantage of the home field and home crowd at the Premier 12, and just a few months later get to do it all over again. This team is hot, and they won't cool down till this qualifier is over with, even with a lot of different players. Maybe if these two had met at the last WBC, Nicaragua could have kept it close, or even pulled off an upset, but not this time. One final game on Tuesday, a rematch between Spain and Nicaragua. I picked Nicaragua again, only this time it won't be close. I imagine they win a close one in their first game over Spain, then on the last day win by a bigger margin. Just like at the last WBC qualifier, when Nicaragua lost its first game to Brazil, then won its last game over Brazil. They'll get better as the tournament goes on. Even if Spain does manage to beat Nicaragua on the first day, we'll still have these two meeting on the final day, and it'll end up the same way. So we'll have Taiwan and Nicaragua qualifying for the WBC, as expected. Alright, then we've got the other group starting the following weekend in Tucson. No home field advantage in this one, but convenient for a lot of players going to and from spring training. In the Taipei group, I talked about the possibility of day one upsets, and the way I expect it to turn out, you'd end up with one elimination game and one championship game on the third day. But in the Tucson group, you have what looks like an elimination game, China versus Germany, and a championship game, Colombia versus Brazil, on the very first day. Also, in this group, I really want to see the rosters. In the Taipei group, I feel confident with my picks, even without seeing the rosters. My picks for that probably won't change between now and late February. But with the Tucson group, a lot could change depending on who is participating. First game on Sunday, March 2nd is China versus Germany. The loser of this one will be in really bad shape. They'll need a win over Colombia or Brazil later on just to stay alive. Should be a good matchup here. China, you'll remember, competed at the last WBC, led the Czech team after 8 innings, then lost it in the 9th, and that's why they're in the qualifier. Germany is also here because they lost to the Czechs. That came at the last qualifier. If Germany had qualified last time, maybe we would have seen the same result. Maybe they would have beaten China. Or maybe China would have won. I don't know, but it would have been close. Since then, China has been looking good in international competition, especially at the Under-23 World Cup back in September, where they finished 4th. Yeah, they had home field advantage, but beating teams like Venezuela and Colombia, that doesn't happen just because you're playing at home. Germany was 4th at the European Baseball Championship last year, which is about where you'd expect them to be, but Germany often underperforms at these tournaments. 4th at the last WBC qualifier, even though they were playing at home. 6th at the previous European Championship, that's why they couldn't participate in the Olympic qualifier. But Germany should be able to put together a better quality roster than China. St. Louis Cardinals hitter Brendan Donovan, Marcus Solbach, a former AAA pitcher, Aaron Altair, former MLB and KBO, played in Mexico last summer. For China, last WBC they had Zhu Quan, a KBO reliever, and Alan Jean Carter, reached AA, played indie ball over the summer. But what about the 23 and under that did so well back in September? Is that a new generation of Chinese ball players ready to take over? Or will we see a team similar to the one at the last WBC? I really want to see the team rosters here, but I have to make a pick without seeing them. And based on projected talent for the roster, I'll go with Germany, in a close one. Okay, now we have what looks like the championship game. Both teams should be loaded with professional players from the MLB system, independent leagues, or wherever. For both teams, hitting will be good. I think it'll come down to which team has better pitching. No way to tell right now, but I would guess that Colombia wins that one. I don't know if we'll see Jose Quintana or anyone like that in the qualifiers, but my guess is Colombia has the edge in pitching, and they win a nail-biter. Day 2, after a heartbreaking loss the night before, Brazil has to meet Germany in the early game. Germany takes advantage and jumps out to an early lead. They hold that lead to the late innings. Brazil mounts a late comeback but comes up short. Germany hangs on for a 5-4 win. Brazil falls to 0-2, Germany 2-0. In the night game, China versus Colombia, China used all their best pitchers the day before in what was seen as a must-win game versus Germany. No matter who they put on the mound won't be able to contain the Colombian bats. Colombia wins big in this one, something like 9-1. Day 3, China versus Brazil in an elimination game. Brazil regroups and their bats come to life. Brazil wins in a blowout. China, after looking good in their opener, gets slaughtered in their last two and goes home winless in 3 games. At night, Germany versus Colombia for the championship. A tie game through the first 6. People wonder if Germany can complete the Cinderella run, but the Colombians break the game open in the late innings as they prevail to finish 3-0 and re-qualify for the WBC. Thursday, March 6th, the final game, a rematch between Germany and Brazil. Brazil jumps out to an early 2-0 lead, but Germany ties it up in the 5th, then scores one more in the 7th to take a 3-2 lead. But in the 8th, a 3-run bomb by a yet-to-be-named Brazilian hitter gives them a 5-3 lead, and they never look back. Brazil re-qualifies for the WBC. The Germans, so close, but they miss out. Okay, so I really started to use my imagination in that one. That's because without the rosters, all I can do is let my imagination run. With the Taipei group, I think I know what's going to happen, but for the Tucson group, I really need to know who's participating. I'm pretty sure Colombia and Brazil will be the ones to qualify, but which one is better, I don't know yet. Same for Germany and China. But what do you think will happen? Let us know in the comments. In a couple months, we can come back and take a look, see if anyone got it right. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!